these videos on Genesis chapter 10, but we'll start in Genesis chapter 9. So God blessed Noah and his sons and said to them, "Be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth." This will help to explain the next chapter, called Genesis 9, is God's covenant then with Noah. And then, of course, we get at the end of the chapter the death of Noah at the end of chapter 9, verse 29. So all the days of Noah were 950 years, and he died. Then we come to Genesis chapter 10. This is an interesting chapter because it's genealogy, and that really is the purpose of this video, to try and explain the significance and importance of genealogies in the Bible, particularly in the book of Genesis. And so let's read from Genesis chapter 10, verse 1. Now, this is the genealogy of the sons of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Japheth, and sons were born to them after the flood. The sons of Japheth were Gomer, Magog, Madai, Javan, Tubal, Meshach, and Tiras. Verse 5, from these the coastal people of the Gentiles were separated into their lands, everyone according to his language, according to their families, into their nations. The sons of Ham were Cush, Mizraim, Put, and Canaan. The sons of Cush were Seba, Havilah, Sabta, Rama, Rama, Sabdeksha, and the sons of Rama were Sheba and Dedan. Then, if we go down later on in the genealogy, verse 21, the children were born also to Shem, the father of all the children of Eber, the brother of Japheth the elder. The sons of Shem were Elam, Asher, Arphaxad, Lud, and Aram. And then, of course, at the end of the chapter, these were the families of the sons of Noah according to their generations in the nations, and from these nations were divided on the earth after the flood. Three main purposes of the genealogy are, first of all, to show that God's commandment was fulfilled. We read that in Genesis chapter 9. Secondly, to bring context to what happens in chapter 11. And thirdly, to be a bridge into the next section of Genesis, and also specifically for seeing the context of Israel amongst the Gentiles and the nations. So those are the three main points. So let's go back to the first one. Is God's purpose was to fulfill when God spoke to Noah, be fruitful and multiply and fill the earth. This chapter, Genesis chapter 10, highlights exactly what happened after chapter 11. And really what it details is the spread of the earth after the flood destroyed the world, how the people and the nations and the groups of nations were separated into different places. The second thing it shows us is what happened after chapter 11. Genesis chapter 10 is really an explanation of what happened after the nations were separated by after the Tower of Babel. Remember, verse 8 of chapter 11, the Lord scattered them abroad from there over the face of all the earth, and they sealed beyond the city. And so what happens next is really chapter 10. And chapter 10 must be taken over a long period of time. But we see then that the people scatter from the Tower of Babel, and then they go into different areas. And interesting, from this chapter we see the first mention of Gentiles in chapter 10 verse 5. They descend from Japheth. Then we have Ham, as mentioned in verse 6, and from them we know that area is what we would know as the Africa region, and also parts of Canaan. And then, of course, from Shem down from verse 21 is the Semitic people, really the Jews. And it's very interesting that Genesis chapter 10 highlights this. From early in the Bible, we see how God had a plan not just for Israel, as we see specifically in chapter 12, but also for the nations. Remember that when God came to Abraham in Genesis chapter 12. Now the Lord said to Abraham, "Get out of your country, from your family, from your father's house, to a land I will show you. I will make you a great nation. I will bless you. I will make your name great. You shall be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you. I will curse those who curses you." And this is the context. In you, all families of the earth will be blessed. So even from chapter 10, we can see that even though God promises to Abraham, well, it's to Abraham's seed, which is Christ, and that, of course, applies to all nations and all people. And then the third purpose of the genealogy is to represent a bridge between the end of the flood and then, of course, into chapter 12 and God's covenant with Abraham. And so we go from the covenant of Noah in chapter 9 through chapter 10 and 11 into the covenant with Abraham as we read. So it acts as a bridge not only between the covenant with Noah and the covenant with Abraham, but also a bridge to connect the different sections of Genesis together. So I hope you can see the importance of the genealogies from Genesis chapter 10. Thank you for listening.